All right. Hey, what's up? This is Mr. Ippolito, and today we're going to go over a quick walkthrough of part one for our key vocabulary, the things that you need to know for this unit exam from chaos to constitution. We're going to keep it simple, one term at a time, some clear examples, just what you need to know to be successful. Now, just so you know where are we starting from? This is the Constitution and U.S. Government Illustrated Vocabulary. This was an optional slide. This was slide number 7 in the Constitution Interactive Notebook. So we're going to start with these first. This is going to be part 1. And then if you want to get to the rest of the terms that were in the study guide, that's going to be in our part 2 video. Let's go ahead and jump in and get started. First of all, 3/5 compromise. We learned about this early on in the unit where we talked about the impact of slavery on the U.S. Constitution and how they came up with some of these compromises. The 3/5 compromise, it was over representation. The delegates argued about how enslaved people would count towards a state's population, and so they ended up with the 3/5 compromise that said 3 out of every 5 enslaved people were going to count for the purposes of representation and taxation. We would consider this to be a win for the Southern delegates, right? Because they were the ones who wanted greater representation in Congress. This also gives them greater representation in the Electoral College. So definitely this compromise between North and South is going to end up being a win for the Southern delegates. But it also leaves the issue of slavery unresolved. And so because they couldn't fully resolve slavery in the Constitutional Convention, this is going to be an issue that is going to keep going for decades and decades until ultimately we hit the Civil War. So this is 3/5 compromise. The next thing, speaking of compromises, this is the Great Compromise. So large states and small states were trying to figure out how are we going to have representation in Congress. If you remember, under the Articles of Confederation, each state got 1 vote in the Congress under the Articles. But the problem with that was, according to large states like Virginia, they're like, hey, wait a minute, we have more people, we have more Americans, therefore we should have greater representation. And so they argued for a Congress that has representation based on population. So if you're a bigger state, you get more representatives in Congress. But small states like New Jersey argued, well, hey, wait a minute, no, that's what we liked about the Articles of Confederation, is that little states like us don't get drowned out. Our voice doesn't get lost in the crowd. And so we would rather have representation based on equality, equal representation for each state. The compromise, the Great Compromise, is we ended up just creating 2 houses of Congress. We call that a bicameral Congress. Literally means, it's Latin for 2-chamber, and it just means that part of Congress is going to be based on population. That's going to end up being the House of Representatives. And then the other part of the Congress is going to be the Senate, and that's going to have equal representation, 2 senators per state. So that is the Great Compromise. Okay. Moving on, let's talk about how people will be represented in our country. First term is direct democracy. Now, this comes from ancient Greece. This is the idea that people, the citizens themselves, would cast votes on every law. They would have a direct say in the rules. Quick example from this year, 2025, California put on the ballot Proposition 50. It was a plan to redistrict. Basically, the Democratic Party in California was upset that the Republican Party in states like Texas and Missouri are redistricting to give themselves more power. And so the Democrats in California were like, well, we want to redistrict so we can make California have more Democrats in the United States Congress. And so that was Proposition 50. In Texas, their legislature passed their version of redistricting. In California, they said, you know what, let's put the vote to the people. And so that's a proposition. That is a form of direct democracy. We do not, at the United States level, at the national level, we do not have direct democracy. Instead, we have, this is the next term, representative government or representative democracy or a republic. It's the idea that this is how our United States government is set up. The people have indirect power, indirect say. They vote for their representatives. So, for example, we have 2 senators in the United States Senate. For California, we have 1 representative for our congressional district. That is currently George Whitesides, representing the California 27th Congressional District. And so we vote for the people who then make our laws. Americans cannot vote directly on United States laws, but as in California, as well as in other states, we can vote directly on laws. But the United States is a representative government or republic where we vote for the people who make our laws. Okay. Next term is separation of powers, basically to keep power from piling up in any one place. The founding fathers, the guys who wrote the Constitution, they separated government into three branches. The legislative branch, they make the laws. The executive branch, they will enforce the laws and make sure that the laws are carried out. And then the judicial branch, they interpret the laws. This is the court system. Each branch is supposed to stay in its own lane. It doesn't always do it. And so as we learn throughout American history in this class and then in future classes you'll see kind of where the executive branch the president might try to take on some lawmaking power or some rulemaking power. They're supposed to stay in their lane. Congress is the one that's supposed to make the laws, make the rules, right? There are times when Congress is the only one that's allowed to declare war, but there are times when the president, acting as the commander-in-chief, will authorize military action in another part of the world. And then there are times when Congress is like, whoa, no, you've gone too far. We are ultimately the one who authorizes the payment for military action. War is expensive. War costs blood and treasure. And so we try our best. It doesn't always work perfectly, but we try our best through the system of separation of powers to make sure that each branch of government stays in its own lane. All right, next term, checks and balances. This is the visual that was on the practice exam, and the same if I choose to put this on the real one. This is the same visual that I would put on the actual exam. It's the idea that every branch has ways that they check the power of the other branches, right? So, for example, the president, he appoints members of the Supreme Court, justices of the Supreme Court, but the Senate has to approve those justices to the Supreme Court and those federal judges, right? So every branch has some power over the other. The president can veto laws, but the Congress, if they really want this law to pass, they can override that presidential veto with a 2/3 vote in both houses of Congress. So each branch has power over the other branch to kind of balance each other. And then the visual that we used in class was like a check in hockey, right? A check in hockey is when you slam somebody up against the side of the wall to prevent their forward progress, to prevent their motion. Checks prevent one branch of government from becoming too powerful over the other branches. Due process of law is the next term. And we're going to talk more about this when we learn about the Bill of Rights. It's basically the idea that the government has to follow fair procedures before taking away your life, your liberty, or your property. That is in the 5th Amendment. That's in the 14th Amendment. This goes all the way back to Magna Carta, right? So if you learned about that in 7th grade history, the idea that everyone deserves to be treated fairly under the law, particularly when they are accused of a crime or accused of wrongdoing, or they're being punished or somehow subject to the law. So that is due process of law. Okay, well, and that's the 7th term, and so this is the end of part 1. If you'd like to find out more and learn more about the rest of those vocab terms, please make sure to stay tuned for part 2 of this vocab series From Chaos to Constitution. We look forward to seeing you in class again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.